I'm Chef Kevin Belton, and today we're gonna make empanadas. Now, to start this off, we're gonna start off making a dough. So we have butter, flour, sugar, and a little salt. So we'll put in a tablespoon of sugar into our butter, and our butter is nice and cold because we have to do what they call cut the dough. We'll do a couple of teaspoons of kosher salt, and now we'll get our flour in. This is just an all-purpose flour. And you know, when we cut the dough, if you look at this little instrument here, some folks can do it with a fork. You know, grandmothers can do it with a fork, but I need a little more help. Basically, we are making little bitty tiny balls. It's getting the butter to break up into the flour. This is what makes dough nice and light and flavorful, because we have a layer of flour with little butter mixed in there. Some folks do it with shortening. I like to do this recipe with a little butter. That's why we're going to use butter today. But it keeps it nice and light. So now let's get the rest of our flour in. And that's okay. It's a little bit of a mess, and it takes a little bit of time to do. But you know, I tell you what, if you spend the time to make this dough, the filling that we're going to make for this is going to be so wonderful. Okay, that we have some great empanadas. As you can tell, as we've cut in our dough, little bitty dots, that's our butter mixing with our flour. Now, to go ahead and finish completing our dough, I have an egg, I have a little vinegar that we're going to whisk together. And one of the other important things about making dough is putting water in that's cold. We're going to do some really, really cold water and just get that whisked in. We'll just whisk that together. And now we'll pour this in with our flour, our butter, sugar, and salt. And we'll just take a fork and just work this together. And this is going to make a nice dough for us. So just take your fork. You can see how this is all of a sudden starting to pull together. And you can turn your bowl as you work it in. As you can see, after putting that moisture in, everything is starting to pull together. Now, here's what we want to do. Let's take a little flour, put on our surface, and we're going to pull our dough. Just pull it together. Put it onto your floured surface. And you know, put a little flour on your hands. And we're just going to bring this together. We're going to bring this together. And this is what's called kneading. When you hear about kneading the dough, it's just turning it, pressing it together. Because what we want to do with this, once we get this kneaded, this has to go in the refrigerator for at least an hour to chill. Then we can roll it out and make our empanadas. So let's just knead this, just keep kneading it to get it worked together. You see how flaky it is? You can almost see like little individual layers. That's going to keep this nice and flaky and light. So now I want to go ahead, put this in clear wrap, and we'll refrigerate this for an hour. While we're doing that, we can start to work on our filling that'll go in these wonderful empanadas. Now, for our filling with our empanadas, in our skillet, we're going to start with a little olive oil. And you know, something for this, we're going to do a little sweet and savory. Here, I have some raisins. Our raisins will give us a little sweetness into that empanada. I love savory and sweet. You know, I tell you what, besides raisins, we're using regular raisins. You can use a golden raisin. You can also use a little dried cranberries in this if you would like. I also have a little red bell pepper. Now, we could go with red bell pepper. If you like the yellow, if you like the green, that's fine. But look at this vibrant color. You know, as bell peppers cook, if you check out their color, they'll get vibrant in color. Then when they start to caramelize, meaning the sugar starts to come out of them, then they'll start to get a little dull. But here, this is a nice, vibrant color, and those flavors are opening up. A little bit of jalapenos. Now, here we're using jalapenos, where if you like, you can use a habanero or a Scotch bonnet or an ancho chili, any pepper that you like. It doesn't have to be very, very hot, okay? Now, I know you may say, boy, this is gonna really be spicy. But once we get everything in, you're gonna see how we have a nice, well balance of flavor. So a little bit of tomato, just some fresh diced tomatoes. Now that we have that little bit of tomato in, a little bit of salt. Salt just opens up flavors. Our raisins are sweet. That little bit of salt will open up the sweetness in that raisin. And a little green onion. Little spring onion, green onion. And this doesn't need to saute too long. Now, while this is sauteing off, let me show you what I have here in our bowl. Here, I have our pulled pork. Now, our pulled pork could be cooked in the oven. It could be cooked in a slow cooker, but I chose to do it in the Presto pressure cooker. So I cooked it for 45 minutes at 15 pounds of pressure. Look at this. It just pulled right apart. Now, into this, I sauteed onion, tomatoes, a little chili powder, a little cayenne, not very much. Put that in the pressure cooker and let it cook all together. Took it out after that 45 minutes once it cooled and just totally pulled it apart. So you see, our sweetness here and our spiciness here is going to complement this pork. So now that we have this sauteed, let's go in with a little tomato paste. Actually, we can go ahead and turn our fire off. Work in our tomato paste. And this tomato paste gets in. This is just a depth of flavor. You know, we put a little fresh tomato in. I cooked our pork with a little fresh tomatoes in. So now we can just take our pulled pork and just get it right on in there. See that sweet, the savory. And I didn't put too much seasoning on the pork because I knew I was going to be using jalapeno peppers here. So let's get a little bit more in. Oh, look at that. And basically, let's just stir this together just to get all those flavors worked in. All right. And lastly, for our filling, now that we have this worked in pretty nice, we're just going to do a little pepper jack cheese. All right. See how pretty that looks? See how everything, when you look around the pan, you see a little bit of raisin, you see a little bit of the green, you see a little bit of the red. That means everything is mixed thoroughly. Now we can just take our cheese and just kind of sprinkle it on over. Now, we have the cheese in. I don't have to stir in the cheese because as we put it in the filling, it'll get mixed in. Now, use the cheese that you like. Here we used a pepper jack, a cheddar, a white cheddar. If you like blue cheese, put the flavors in that you like. A manchego would work really great with this. So while this is cooling, let's get our dough and make our empanadas. Now, our dough has rested. We'll put a little flour on, and you know, we can actually take our hand and start to press this down. We're going to use a rolling pin to roll this out. You know, and as you start to roll, you can roll away from you. It's easier to probably roll toward you, but you know, it's easier to go away from you. That's a little better. So we floured our counter, and let's just roll this out. Now, you know, empanadas were thought to have been made originally in Spain. It's basically a meat pie that's filled. Here in Louisiana, we have great Natchitoches meat pies. You know, all around the country, everybody does a little something different. Where here we're doing savory and sweet, you could make a dessert empanada. Or just make it completely savory, or make two different types once you have your dough made. So you see how we roll this dough out, and we don't want it too thick because we want it to be able to cook. The filling inside has to be, even though it's already cooked, it just has to warm up, okay? So here we have this rolled out, just about a 1/4 inch thick. Now, let me show you a little trick. If you take a bowl, put a little flour just around the edge of it. Now, turn it over, press down. So now we pick it up and we go and make another one. And just give it a little press and give it a little twist. And, okay, our first one worked. All right, let's get our second one out. We can just pull this off, set this on the side. Okay, now, once you get them cut, if you think they're a little too thick, you can still just give them a little bit of a roll. That way they aren't too thick. Okay. Oh, this is going to be so good. I can't wait. And you know, here we're making a big family size empanada. Now, we're going to take a little filling, put a little bit of our filling right in the middle. Okay. We can do this on both of them. And you know what's nice with this? Some will have more cheese, some will have more raisins. You know, do them how you like. Now, like I said, we're making more of a family size. So now, fold this over. We're going to take a little water and just wet our dough. Just take your finger, wet one side of the dough, because this way, this will create a seal. So as we fold it over, okay, pinch it down to make sure you have all the air out of it, and then take your fingers and just turn and pinch, turn and pinch. And this is just crimping the edges. We packed it down nice and tight to make sure our filling doesn't come out and we have no air on the inside. That's what we want. Just turn, keep turning, and just crimp those edges. Now, this is a fairly nice size. If we want, we can make a small one. Now, we're going to use the Presto fryer for this. And you know, if you're making the small ones, we could cook those in the little smaller Presto Fry Daddy. But today, since we're doing a larger empanada, we're going to go ahead and cook this in our dual basket Presto Pro Fry. Press it down. Take your hands and just form a little pocket just to make sure there's no air on the inside, okay? Now, I have set our fryer at 375 degrees. And you know, one of the most important things about frying is making sure the oil is hot enough. Because when you don't fry at the proper temperature, you put something in cold oil, it tastes greasy. And that's one of the great things about using the fryer is the fact that once we set that temperature, that light will go off and that lets us know our oil is up to temperature. Plus, when we fry, we don't want to crowd our fryer because this way our fryer will maintain that temperature throughout the cooking. So just one more time, give it a little press. And now, let's go ahead and get our empanadas in our fryer. Now, as you can see on our Presto Dual Basket Pro Fry, our light is off. We've set this at 375 degrees. When the light goes off, that means it's reached temperature. Now, when we put our empanadas in or fry anything, the temperature may drop a little. So if you see the light come back on, that's okay. The oil is just heating back up to maintain that perfect temperature. So let's get in our empanadas. So we'll put one in one basket, and we'll shake off any little excess flour, put it in the other basket, and now let's just lower them in. These will cook for 8 minutes. Halfway through, we're going to give them a turn so that they cook golden brown and everything inside cooks evenly. You know, this Presto unit has an 1800 watt immersion heating element. This helps maintain the oil at the proper temperature. Our empanadas have actually floated to the top. So now we're halfway through our cooking process. Let's give them a flip so that they cook evenly on both sides. Now, our empanadas are done. And I have to tell you, something great about this Presto Pro Fry dual basket is that here we can take our empanadas out, or whatever we happen to be frying, and let them rest right here. We don't have to worry about draining on paper towels because our baskets will do the draining for us. So now we can go ahead and put them on our plate. So let's take our tongs and just put it right on our plate. Oh, here, let's put this one to face this way. And you know, when things first cook, I always like to finish them off with just a tiny bit of kosher salt. So if we're gonna make appetizers and bite-sized empanadas, we can go ahead and use the Presto Fry Daddy. But for the empanadas that's going to be a meal, let's go ahead and use our Presto Dual Basket Pro Fry Deep Fryer.